This module will cover the Sorrento C60. Our goal is just to familiarize you with this style and then to show some standard installation processes that will be used. So let's get started. First thing we have here is just a couple studio pictures of this product. And then as we look at the specifications, a lot of the same things that are on the other styles. It is 36 and 42. The one thing with this particular style is we only have the level sections in this style in the mesh. So if you're doing a stair or a ramp situation, we recommend, as shown here, either Tuscany or Verticable go with it. Those are 2-rail systems similar to this. It is an assembled section, 4, 5, and 6 foot. And those are measured as others are between posts. That's what it's meant to fit. Rails are the same size as you'll see on the other styles. The internal rail design is made to accept the mesh infill. And then because the rails are the same size and look on the outside, you're going to be able to use those same wall mounts that we have. The opening that you saw in the picture, this is currently, we have a 2 3/8 opening. Coming later this year, a little bit wider opening, 3 5/8, and those are center to center measurements on those. And so currently we have the 2 3/8. It has a 3/8 EPDM rubber gasket to accept the 3/8 thick panels. You basically have a 0.188 vertical, 0.188 horizontal, and they cross. And so as it goes into the gasket, that's why we need the 3/8 gasket. The infill can be matching the same standard 12 colors that we have for Westbury, or we have a clear coat finish where you could have black rails and a clear coat on the infill. It is a stainless steel panel, 18-8 stainless steel panel. So it will give you that look of the raw stainless steel, but it does have a coating on it, so it gives it some extra protection as well. Again, top rail, same, as a little bit longer on each end, so you can have the crossover or do a post to post if you want. Your 12 standard colors as with the rest of Westbury. This will also have gates available, and these are adjustable by width. So again, you can take them apart, cut them down in the field if needed. If you don't have one of these gate openings, we make them for gate openings of 36, 48, 60 as listed. As with other Westbury gates, the gate is actually just a little bit smaller than that to allot for the hinge and latch, hinges and latches that we have. And then you have the same colors and infill option, that we have with these sections. And with this gate, you'll get a installation instruction that will come in the gate on cutting it down and cutting the rails down and cutting the mesh panel down and everything. And since this does use the same rails, same wall mounts, measurements for placing these are the same as you would with Tuscany or with your Verticable, other 2-rail models that we have. Installation instructions mention those measurements, and they will be on this as well, on these installation instructions, which will be included with it when those come out. So when you get the section, it will be assembled, and it will have zip ties on it, which will hold the rails onto the panel, and then also hold the end covers onto the mesh infill, so they all stay together. And then you want to clip all those off before you install it. If you have to take the section apart because you need to cut it, you just pull your rails off. Make sure that, if when you pull your rails off, the rubber insert could possibly come off, just pop that back in the rail. And then when you do this, you're going to measure to cut the rails, similar to what you do with everything else. Again, it's an in-between post spacing. So if you're at 58 inches between your posts, and you're doing, as you see here, a post with cap on each end, you're going to have to account for a 1/4 inch. Each bracket has a back wall that takes a 1/4 inch. So the rail is going to have to be a 1/2 inch shorter to work with that. If you're using a crossover post, then you'll accommodate in the same way that you would there. You'll use a carbide tip blade to cut the rails, and you can cut the rubber gasket and the rail together at the same time. When it comes to cutting the mesh, you're going to want to use a bolt cutter. We did work with it here to try to get a different method to do it, but we're using a grinding wheel, ends up heating up the material so much that it damages the powder coating. So the bolt cutter is the best way to cut it and get it down. And so when you're going to cut that down, you need a minimum of 2 1/8 inch spacing from the post to the edge of the horizontal rods. So as you see this with the horizontal rods there, that's how you want it to end up when you're done cutting it down, because the end covers will only fit over the horizontal portion. It will not fit over an area. If you would cut that right by the vertical rod, that end cover will not go over both the horizontal and the vertical. So you want something sticking out of that. So if you need to, you get like within a 1/4 inch of that, you might need to cut on the other side of the vertical rod, so you have enough left on that horizontal to push it in. And then when you go to once you get that cut and you've got your rails cut, same thing as you would with others, install your bottom rail. You'll use the flathead screws to attach those rails to the brackets. You're going to place your mesh in, make sure it's centered when you put it in place, because once you put it in there, it's kind of hard to move around. You might, if you don't get it centered, you'll have to pull it back out and recenter it, which may pull the gasket out again, so you may have to replace the gasket. So you want to get it centered, push it down in there, make sure it is seated completely down into the bottom rail. And then once you get that centered and in place, take your top rail, slide it down over top, push it down until it seats all the way down into the wall mounts for the top rail. And it should, in doing that, it should line everything up with the infill, and it'll seat in there nicely. And then once you get that done, you're going to fasten your top mounts with your flathead screws again, and you can go ahead and put those covers on that'll hide those screws. And then when you go to look at the side end covers, as you see there on the left, you're going to take the little brackets that come with it. You're going to slide those down on the top, slide one up on the bottom, and then you're going to slide that over the horizontal rod piece and push that in place. Make sure that you've got even spacing both sides from post to the mesh, as I mentioned before. And then when you before you fasten the brackets, make sure that you're plumb with that end cover as well before you go to fasten the screws down. And then you can fasten those. And you will get number 10 by 5/8 screws that will be colored the proper color that you will use to fasten those brackets to the top and bottom rails. And just again, make sure that you have consistent spacing when you're done there. And that ends this module for the Sorrento C60. Thanks for joining us.